PYPL.com, and he works to recognize and dignify migrant Guatemalans in this country and to reduce forced emigration from his home country. As part of his effort to further education in the country of his birth and to reduce emigration, he has also founded Café Con Causa. All profits from Café Con Causa go to further education in Guatemala. And Mr. Antil has been widely recognized for his philanthropic work and for his contributions to human rights. In 2021, he was recognized for his work in science and technology at the national and international level, and for his defense and promotion of human dignity by the Office of Human Rights in Guatemala. In that same year, he was also awarded the keys to Huehuetenango by the mayor of the city for his altruistic work in Guatemala, including the donation of 2 computer labs to his native Santa Eulalia, and for his support of artisans and entrepreneurs. In 2016, the Galileo University of Guatemala honored him with a Doctor Honoris Causa for his social work in the field of education. Pensa Libre, a widely circulated Guatemalan newspaper, named Antil Person of the Year in 2014, again for his altruistic work in education. And on December 11th of 2024, he was honored at the White House, along with other prominent Guatemalans, for his public and civil service. For those of you who have not yet read his book, and I hope all of you will, I know many of you have, he arrived here in the United States at the tender age of 14, a fugitive from the civil unrest in his country of origin, Guatemala. He was eventually awarded asylum and was able to complete his education in California, eventually becoming a US citizen. He has used his learning and his experiences to give back to his adopted and his native countries by providing career opportunities and in Guatemala access to free education. And he routinely travels back and forth between the United States and Guatemala. And I would like, before he comes up here to share with you, just to share some words from his book. He opens it with these words: "I've come to realize that my purpose in life is to serve." And that should be everyone's motto here. And near the end of his book, he writes, "It fills us with happiness that we can continue to generate job opportunities in technology for Guatemalan professionals that were not there before. My greatest dream continues to be that the young children and youth of Guatemala don't need to go through the hardships of my generation. That in order to get ahead, no one is forced to leave, nor to awaken in the hostility of a foreign soil. That in order to accomplish their dreams, they do not have to separate from their families, just like I once had to separate from mine." So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to you, Marcos. We are so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. What a great honor to be with you today. Very excited. Since I got the first email from Cindy, I was like, is it real, or maybe it's one of those spam emails trying to see, what could happen, and so on. And so, I think I waited for a few days. I do travel a lot, and we started talking, and then it was real. And then it said Penn Yan, and I'm like, oh, that must be some program, because I've never heard of Penn Yan. and then I started reading more. And then I started realizing that it's first of all real, and Cindy had, I think, the greatest patience, and we were talking, and then I would go off the grid a little because I've been traveling, and then I come back, like, are you still there? Yes, I'm still here. I called Cindy, she would pick up, and then she told me about this community, and she like, would you mind doing a Zoom? And I'm like, no, Cindy, I think I would like to come if it's okay with you. And like, are you sure? Like, yeah, I know where, I don't know where Penn Yan is, but I'm sure I can find it. I'm really bad with maps. and so I got this humble invitation, honored just to realize that I'm coming here with you and that you're real. and I already have been blessed with some of you whom I've shared time with, staying with you at your homes. One of the things I really enjoy is traveling with my daughter. She's 6 this year. Last year we went to Tennessee to a community called Chattanooga, which I had no idea also that it existed. And there was a community there that they had read the book as well. And so we went there, and we were just about starting to write this children's book as well that came out. And so Januszka went with me, and she was reading this book. And so when we heard this, I'm like, Cindy, could I bring my daughter with me? My wife, Yana, would love to have come, but we have an 8-month-old baby. It would have been a bit hard, and he sleeps and eats, well, during the day every 2 hours, and eats every 2 hours. So Yana was like, no, it's fine, you can go with Januszka, and you tell us about it. So I brought Januszka. Januszka, you want to come up here just to say hi, Ben? Benny? Want to say hi? No? Yes. She was my co-pilot, and so we made it. Love you. Thank you, mi amor. And so that's how we got here. And Januszka, for those of you who have read the book, she has a second name. The second name is Lucia, and Lucia was my mom's name, who passed away just I think a year before we started. Well, I started working on the book, and through the book, for those who've read, try to ensure that her spirit is from page 1 to the end, because she was the pillar of the family, and she was my strength, and so. When you lose your loved ones, it's so difficult. You don't lose them because they stay with you, but it was a very challenging moment. And so I've always had desire a family, but then I realized that a family is between 1 or 2 people. so my had goals since I was very young, and I couldn't settle, I guess, until I found my wife, Yana, whom I met through a very interesting story. We were introduced together. We were introduced by friends common in Miami. She was in Moscow. She's from Moscow. She was in Greece. She's a photographer. And then I went to Moscow, and I told her, if we could meet up for a date. So we met up for a date 10 months after we got married, and 1 year after our marriage, there is Januszka. And now we have the 8-month-old baby. It's a blessing time for us because wanting something so important and working for it so hard, it doesn't always come when you want it to come. I'm like a very good planner. In everything else I've done well, except my family, it started late, but it's not late, it's perfect for me. I'm able to enjoy time with them. I'm very lucky to working from home after then having sold this company that I was with for almost 20 years. Now I'm able to share time with her, and then the pandemic came. I was with her every day, and now Miroslav, that's the name of the baby boy. I'm with them at this time, and I can, and so that's one of the things that I really very much enjoy. So that's kind of a very, very quick story to say that I'm very grateful for opening your houses, your home, and this amazing place of peacefulness, tranquility. I didn't know what to expect, and when I started seeing where I would be, I was very filled, and I feel very, very blessed and very lucky and very humble to be here with you, and for you to also listen to what I might have to say. I was asking Cindy as far as what should I talk about? Some of you might have read the book, some of you might have not. And so Cindy sent a few questions, but I think it's very, very good to talk about. And one of them was, why write this book? And it's a memoir, it's a biography, why write it? I think what Zach was saying was very important because it's important to tell story. And all of us here, really, we have a story. I mean, all of us here, we have a story, and it's a great story that is worth to be told to our friends, to our neighbors, to our children, to our descendants. It's amazing how much the word, the mouth to word will come through, but it doesn't get translated as if you are writing it. Now, you can record it. Like, this is so incredible. You can record a 5-10 minutes video, and that you will leave for your children. My grandmother, she passed this last year at 102. Very blessed. Her mom was at 116. So I am going to be at 100 for sure. That's my goal. and so we asked her to give us videos. So when we went to Guatemala, I would ask her, Grandma, record something. And those right now are treasure, because she didn't speak Spanish. She probably spoke 1% Spanish. She was speaking one of the Mayan languages. And that becomes really important. So it feels that when you tell the stories and you pass them through, it's important, but when it comes from you, it's even more important, because now it's your vision, what you've learned that comes in, you pass on to the next generation. So when I wrote this book, it was really based, because I started, when I started going back to Guatemala, I started the company, and, well, for me, it was normal to kind of do that. And then my friends were like, it's not necessarily normal, because why are you coming back? And like, this country kicked you out, and you have to work forcefully. Why are you coming back? My mother actually asked me the same question, because she's like, son, we left the country because your dad was gonna get killed. And your aunt, your cousins, your uncles, they are about to be abducted or taken into hostages. Why are you going? And so I told her, like, it's a good question, and I know that's what happened, but I feel like I should go and be able to help, because there's other kids like me that cannot do what I did, and that they don't have the family here. So if I am able to help one or two there, so they don't go through this process, then I'm good. I can go on with whatever I have to do. But to me, that was important. So I told my mom that I was gonna go, and she was like, if you go, just make sure you have security, you have drivers. She gave me a long list. She called my uncle, who also passed last, I think, 2 years, 3 years because of the pandemic. And he was like, okay, he'll be back. So when I get there, I had my driver, I had security, and it felt very strange going around with somebody always behind you. And it was very important, because eventually, I think in 2009, I was about to, I was persecuted, so that they wanted to take me, and so on. So I'm very grateful to my family. And so why go back? That's what my mom's question. And she was very afraid. And so I told her that it was gonna be okay. And we believe in God, obviously. And I told her, Mom, if something is supposed to happen to me, it will happen to me here or there. It doesn't matter. I know it's hard to say it, but if it's meant to be, then it will happen. And so I would rather it happening while I'm doing something that I believe in, and I can help somebody else. And with that, Mom was like, okay, I guess you're grown up, but you do what I need you to do. So then I started going. I started hiring people. I had a lot of people here in the States. I divided the company in which our executive, the sales, and the architects, I call them the brainstorm that was very important for us to get to this market, was here. And then I say the muscle, which is really the developers and programmers, we had them in Guatemala, and there was a creative team down in Colombia, and I kind of distributed into these different places where I could create a big team. And I had worked with India for so many years and been in pretty much all the companies here in the States. And so I realized that when you have a bigger team and you have different specialties coming from different places, the end, it's very powerful. So we want to give the best. I think the States has the highest quality of a lot of things that we do. And it's thanks to all these different brains coming through. So I kind of copied that, and I went down. And so my friend, like, I don't know why you're coming down, but if you came down, this doesn't happen often, he says. So we would like you to do an interview with this newspaper, which was the biggest in Guatemala, to tell your story. I mentioned that to my mom. my mom was like, okay, now you go, and now you want everybody to know you? What, like, Marcos, this is very concerning. And I again told my mom, like, Mom, I didn't want to do it. I really didn't want to do it because I was not entirely afraid. I think I was afraid, but I just don't want to say it. And when you want to do some things, there's like something that you're really afraid of. But if that conquers you, then you don't do anything. So you do things that are a little uncomfortable. So I told my mom, you know, the reason why I did it. And she's like, why? So I was talking with these friends, very scholars, and they told me, you should tell the story. I'm like, no, I can't. It's very difficult, and I would like not to do it because of the reason. And he comes back and tells me, but Marcos, I'm sorry to tell you, but this is not your story. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not my story? I mean, like, you told me that it's my story, and now you're telling me it's not your story, my story. And what do you mean? Like, this is the story of thousands and millions of people. And you should speak up. You should show them that no matter where you go, you can create, you can succeed, and you can come back and help others. That is the harder story. So that's kind of what he told me that I should do. So when he told me that, then I realized that in fact the story is not mine, that all of us here are immigrants. At some point, grandmother, great-grandparents, and how we are, it's a story of God. Well, we know that exactly. I don't have to mention that. All of us are immigrants. And so when I looked at it that way, that's when I started realizing, okay, then let's try. So we did an interview, and it's been one of the most successful stories that had been. This was in 2011. And after that, I was invited to speak to universities, to different audiences, and I did. It's hard to tell a story of 40 years. I was 40 then when I started really exposing, in 40 minutes. And so somebody tells me then, you should write a book. And I'm like, I'm not a writer. I barely know the language, Spanish. In fact, English, I always consider English as my second language because Spanish I'm still learning. And I'm like, how can I do this? And they told me it's not about how you write, it's about the story. And here there's a story. And that's what all of us here have a story. I mean, all of us have a story. If we're able to write it down and then have it passed on to the children, to our children, descendants, they're gonna take that as a treasure. All that we see now of people writing after 100 to 100 years, the great-grandfathers of this country, it's our story. And so I'm like, okay, then I'll try it. It took us 3 years to write a story, but the story was really to tell the story of others, and like the doctor was saying, to expose. And it's not about me, it's about the people that we represent and about the hope. And so I do believe in the American dream, but I also think that I can create a Guatemalan dream. And I was able to reach that American dream here, and I think I am able to generate also in Guatemala or in other places. And that's really the reason why this book came to be. The way that it's written, it's a bit different in the sense that I could have focused on the aspects of Civil War because I lived through it. I saw people losing their lives in front, being tortured. I mean, my school was burned down. So I could have focused on that one, but then I realized that there's others that can tell it better than me, and I wanted to focus on the person, on the family, on the people in the center of these conflicts, especially the young. And so the book, for those of you who have read it, the book does not represent a lot of resentment. Rightly, there could be, but I decided not to do that. There was a Cold War, there were military, non-military. I decided not to use those words, rather than use people with guns, people with uniforms, because I wanted to reach all the audience. And when there's these different audiences, and let's say you pick a side, but in this book, my side is not to pick a side, it's to tell the human story, it's to tell the suffering, it's to tell what the consequences are, but also is to tell the people and the young ones to say, it's possible. It doesn't matter where you come from. I come from a place, where there was no electricity. It's the house made of adobe. My parents used to be picking up coffee and cardamom in different areas of the country. My father picked cotton, and if some of you know about cotton, picking cotton is very painful, and very difficult under the sun. In Texas has amazing cotton fields. I drove through it in 2016. It was incredible. So that's what my family did. And so for me to kind of like what the doctor was saying, for me to come and say, to be able to create something, to some it's difficult, but I really think it's not difficult. In my case, it's also something that I was really wanting to tell in the book. It's about love. It's about family. I was lucky because I had my mom, my father, my 8 siblings supporting me. My 2 older brothers, they did sacrifice themselves to continue working so I could go to university because mom and dad would not, were very not happy with me when I told them that, not because they were bad, it's just that nobody had gone to university. And so getting out and going to university, that means that I was not gonna work anymore. And we had hardship. And so my brothers, I asked them first if it's okay for me to go. And they say, go, we're gonna keep on working extra hours to cover the expenses of the children, and you go, and when you're done, you come back and help us, and we help each other. And that was only possible through this family. And that's why for me, having this forced migration or having people being forced to leave their family, it attacks the center of what we are about. It's about family. You break that, then yes, we have consequences in the long term. And so anything we can do to contribute to that, that's what it is. So that's how this book became to be. I wanted to be remembered as a book of love, as a book of hope, as a book of everything. It's possible. It doesn't matter where you are. And overall, we're all humans. For those of you that read the book, you've seen what chapter 7 was about. Chapter 22, there's hardships. And it was really difficult. 2 points in the book that was very difficult. One of them, well, we wrote the book for 3 years. And then there was this chapter about my father, who became addicted to alcohol. So he was alcoholic, and who came and hit my mom, domestic violence. So I wrote that story, but it was very difficult. And so I was telling the person that was helping me, Gustavo, who helped me write the book, like, let's keep it. And he's like, are you sure you want to do it? Like, I'm going to talk to my dad first. I talked to the whole family, and I wasn't still sure. And then when we decided to put that in, obviously my father was still alive. And it's not really talking bad about him, but it's what we went through. And then what people told me and friends told me, like, you're being vulnerable and just being human. But the good thing is that he got out of that. And what was even more powerful for that is that he got out of it through religion. We were in a religion that was in Guatemala very purist. In the one we were in, you couldn't listen to songs that were not to God, or you couldn't drink alcohol. It was very, very difficult, but for us, saved our life, because as soon as he changed, 0 alcohol. And when there was 0 alcohol, it was only love. There was no more abusing of my mom and so on, so that changed our lives. And so that part was important to put on the book. And so when I told my dad about it, that I was gonna do this, and if he would be okay about it, and you know, we talk about how difficult it was, and like son, I went through it, and I cannot hide it. And if that can help somebody else, go for it. Tell them, and like, are you sure, Papa? Because they might come and ask you about it. Like, it's fine, I'll talk about it if I have to, but this is our story. And so if you want to tell a story, you tell it as it is. It's difficult. We all have hardships. So that was one of the chapters. The other chapter, I'll leave it for you to talk about. It's chapter 7, but just shows how vulnerable we are as humans. And so that's how this book continues to be. It's about portraying family and love, about portraying unity. And California, I came to California. I went to high school. I went to junior high for 3 months, and then I went to high school. And then that was it. That was supposed to be, because high school was, I was an adult, so I was able to get into jobs. Teachers, and I know some of you here are educators, were educators. Teachers were the other angels in my life, because they were the first ones that introduced me to this thing called university. And what is a university? And I had this teacher, his name is Mr. Carmona, Mr. Miller, that were always like, they were becoming very annoying teacher. I was a teenager. And they would come and like, Marquitos, like, are you gonna go to the university? I'm like, no, I can't go to the university. Like, every day, my homeroom, that I got so bored of it and tired, and they're like, Mr. Carmona come like, Marquitos, are you gonna go to university? I'm like, yes, Mr. Carmona, I'm gonna go to university. I'm like, whew, I'm done. The next morning, Marquitos, here's the application to the university. These individuals changed my life. They really touched my life, and I did fill up the application, but then this was in 1994. And in California, we have the laws anti-immigrant in the whole country right now in California. And there was this governor that was running exactly with the same anti-immigrant, and he won. And so 3 months before I was able to start school, I was accepted to all the major universities in California. The law passed, and the first effect was to take away student loans from anyone who was not a resident. I was under political asylum. I already had a Social Security work authorization, but I was not a resident nor a citizen, and so that affected me very hard. So I was a good student, 3.8 GPA. I was a community. I even played football just so that I can assimilate and feel how to be an American. I think I was a very good citizen. And then somebody just decided to change it, so they took it away. And so it was, I had 90% scholarship and 10% federal, state and federal loan, which I'm okay with because I believe in investing in you. It's okay to own money for yourself, and then you can pay it off. That's how I thought. And so I did that. But with 10% in the university I was choosing, that would mean about $10,000 a year. My family of 10 was living on $10,000 a year. There is no way I was gonna get that loan. And so I cried, and I was like, this is not fair. My daughter says that all the time now. Not fair about anything, but it's not fair. I'm like, it's not fair. How can I do all this? And then this happens, and it was very painful. But then Mr. Miller comes. Mr. Miller like, it doesn't matter what's gonna do. What we're gonna do. You guys are gonna go to a university. It was 5 Central Americans, and so he took us, rented this minibus, and took us to different universities. And we got there, great grades, and like, wow, but why are you here? Like, 187. I'm like, oh, sorry, we can't help you. And then I went to this university called Bakersfield, north of LA for about 2 hours, 110 miles in the middle of the desert. It's a farm. It's 140 sometimes Fahrenheit during the summer. The university had existed only for 25 years. It was the newest state university. So we went there during the summer, and the recruiter, she looked at our documents and our grades and like, why are you here? And then we told her again, like, you know what? I know you've been running around. It doesn't matter what we do, you come here. We're gonna take care of the tuition. You pay your food and your rent, and the rest we do it. So 6 of us, we rented a house, so we were paying, I don't know how much. We didn't have money for food, but we survived. And eventually, even with those challenges, I mean, I was able to get to this university. I chose computer science. I had no computers. I didn't know how to program, but I had this friend that I met during my vacation, my first vacation ever. The vacation I had because my vacations in Guatemala was to go to work. And this one was out of LA, and then my friend, Sonny, that I was gardening for him on the weekend. He told me, Marcos, we're gonna go to San Francisco. We would like to take you with us on vacation. And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter if I work in LA or in San Francisco, it's still the same. So we go. And then we went, and he's like, no, you are going on vacation. I'm like, what's vacation? You're gonna go to the Golden State, you're gonna go to these places, we're gonna take you. I mean, you're not gonna work. And I'm like, I have no money. And like, no, this is on us. And so I went to this house of this person, his name is Jeffrey, in Sudan, and they were in Silicon Valley. I had no idea where I got. And they were in this place, a very nice house. The guy was making a lot of money. He was making $30,000 a month. And I looked at this check, and I'm like, with this check, this $30,000, I could solve all the problems. I could pay a lot of milk. because we had issues with milk, with the cereal, with the electricity, with gas, and so on. I'm like, this is so, and he's like, yeah, that's what I do for 1 month. And I'm like, what did you study, Jeffrey? And I'm like, I study computer science. What's that? And like, you give instructions to a hardware, and the hardware does what this does. And I'm like, is it difficult? Like, no. Okay, great. So I asked him, Jeffrey, where do you have your PhD? Because if you're making this money, you must have a doctorate. I mean, and like, no, I don't have a PhD. I'm like, okay, then where did you get your master's? And like, I don't have a master's. And I'm like, wait. So if you don't have a PhD, you don't have a master's, then what do you have? And like, I have a 4-year degree in computer science. So I asked him, Jeffrey, so does that mean if I go to university for 4 years, I can do that? And like, yes, you can do that and more. And that solved my problem. It became such important for me that I would discover the end of what a goal could be. And I didn't look at the ways, because the ways were very difficult. Every road, there's a million roads to get there. And if I would have chosen the road, I could probably still be looking for it right now. But when I was able to look at that goal, and I think some of you will probably relate to it, when you look at the goal, the ways open up. And it really does open up because you're focused. Something happens, then you just go around and you already know where you're going to go. And that to me came in when I was, I think, about 18 years old. And I was about choosing these careers. And then I say, I'm doing computer science. Obviously, walking that path was really, really difficult. And I tell it in the book, the challenges that I had. I'm really good at math. That's the only one I was able to speak in the class where everybody spoke English and nobody spoke Spanish. And math is universal, so that was my favorite class. And I failed that at the university. I couldn't go through it, and I mean, math. And then I got into logic. It's not even numbers, it's just symbols. And for this, it's practice. And I was working full-time. I was going to school full-time, sleeping 2 hours, 45 minutes. I couldn't do it anymore. And so it was challenging. So the way was hard, but the goal was that I could solve all the problems within the family. And luckily, when eventually I graduated, 5 years instead of 4 years, because it took me a little bit longer, I got computer science, I got communications and graphic design. This was in 1995. I know you guys, you're very young, well on the back there. It was 95, computer science, Adobe Photoshop. It was so difficult to do anything that you do right now with just your phone and tell the instruction. It was very difficult. And so I was able to eventually reach that goal through different goals, and I was with a company, and then I started my own company. The point is that it was very difficult, but this person whom I visited on this vacation as a gardener, showing me what it could be, and that just, to me, got stuck. And so in a lot of my conversation, I talk about this. It's like, it's important to have goals. It's important to believe. To believe. It doesn't matter what values you believe in or what religion you follow or you believe. If a person does not believe, you can get lost. And so to me, that's very important, and that's how that became. And eventually that became a story that I kept on telling, and who's my audience. My first audience, the book that I wrote for those of you who've read it, I'm not a writer, so the book, it's a very simple language. It's my language. It's something that there's no fancy word because I'm not a writer. I had the first edition of the book in Spanish be edited by a professional writer because I was able already to pay for him. And when I got the book, I couldn't understand it because he changed the word with very fancy words. And I couldn't understand it. And I'm like, the book is for kids that are 13 to 23 years old. That was my first audience. No one will understand it. This is very good at PhD level because it's very fancy. And I don't think I could sell it anyway because my Spanish is so bad. My English is, it's like this. So I'm not a PhD in English. I'm not a PhD in Spanish. There's no way I can get a book that is in the PhD. So I told him, thank you very much, and I went back. The book, it's very simple. It's focused on the story. And the book is divided into 31 chapters, 302 pages. And the reason why we divide into 31 chapters is so it's easy to read. For those of you that might watch TV series, some other series, like the first one, and you can get addicted. Well, the book, I kind of tried to do something like that. So rather than having 300 pages in 10 chapters. I did it in 31 chapters. The longest chapter is chapter 1, can take you 20 minutes, and then others maybe 15. The shortest chapter can take you 5 minutes. So then a lot of the readers, what they do, will go through it, 5 more minutes. They go through it, and they go through it, and we've had people that read the book in just a few hours, or they started in the evening, in the morning, they are done. And so that's how that book is created. And in each book, in each chapter, there's a challenge, but there's also a solution. And there's also, a happy ending. Why not? I think we all have happy endings. We have a happy life. It's how we get there. It's how you believe it. And so I think this book was like that. So it's very easy. So that was this audience. And this young audience of 13 to 21, that's because on some of the chapter I was going through university, it was very difficult. And I think at that point when somebody can read something like this and like, what I'm going through is not so bad, because I learned that as well, then touched that, and then the audience grew. So the book has been read by 8 years old and by 100 years old. Because I know, because I get this, and then I had a friend in Guatemala, became my friend. He's like, Marcos, my dad just read your book. He was 99. And so now his children, great-grandchildren, everybody has book. And then I went to the bookstore, they just ordered about 100 books. That family, because we're a very big family. It's like, in my case, they were 10. And they were like 20 and so on. So that, the response, and then when I talk with the little kids are reading it, I'm like, yes, I can actually read it. Januszka can read it. Now she's 6, she's now starting to read. And so it's easy to consume. That's why this book became that way. And the idea, again, is to spread the story, to make that we are humans, that we have the right to be happy. We have the right to help. And this pursuit of happiness, I really think it's true. I mean, and this country has that. Like it's what we all pursue, and I believe in that. I mean, when I became a U.S. citizen, I was thinking, should I not? And I'm like, yes, I am. I am. I believe in this goal. I believe in this Constitution. I really do. And so I'm like, yes, I will. And when I did that, it was, obviously very happy, because to get my green card, it took me 13 years to go through the political asylum. And for a green card holder, it takes about 5 years to become a citizen. And so I went through all that, but I was very conscious in every year. For those 13 years, I had to renew it every year, the work authorization, and make sure. And my mom did all this work, and she didn't even speak Spanish well. And so it doesn't matter where you are. If you really want to, in my mom's word, you can make it happen. She was up at 3:40 in the morning at the immigration downtown LA. She would be there, she would get the tickets, and then she would bring us the tickets, we would fill it up, and she would go again and put it. And it's incredible that and the way that I got into school was because of the pastor of the church, because we had no papers, so somebody had to say that we're a good citizen, and the pastor has seen my family, so he gave us the letter that allowed us to get into school. So the community, this community, when I come to this community, it's such a great community, united community. It's incredible to have this community around, and the difference that you can make in people's life, in your children's life, in this generation, is very important. So that's how this book came to be. I can tell more about it, but I think it's also, we can do some question and answer. For those that read the book, if you want to ask some questions, I'll be as open as possible to that. But before, I'm very, again, thankful for giving me this space, giving me this privilege. And if you are able to write, write. If you don't want to write, record. Talk to your kids, talk to your grandchildren, tell them something that they'll remember, and it's so valuable. I showed the message to her because she couldn't understand this 2-3 years ago, of my grandmother, great-grandmother, who's 100, again, too, Eulalia. And she was speaking to us, mentioning everybody in the love she was living, and we could see it now. So if you can write a book, if you haven't written yet, write it. We all have a story, and our story, it's great, it's amazing. If you don't want to write, you have a phone, record it. everybody has a phone now, I think. Record it and leave a message because it's the most valuable treasure that your kids will remember. So thank you very much again for having me here. Thank you so much. Thank you. So,
Anybody have questions? Talk to you.
Wow, as I was reading that story, it just melted my heart to know what you went through. And one of the thoughts I had was, how do you manage to instill your noble and wonderful ideas of your ancestry and your legacy and everything into your own children?
it's a very good question. You know, we are very lucky in that sense, as far as the ancestry values that we have, this millennial culture. I'm a Mayan. 23andMe says I'm 99% Mayan, and I have 0.3 Southeast Asian, so you'll probably see the eyes for that. Thank you to that. I had, I think, 0.00 something European. You tell me how that happened, but I think we know where all that comes from. And so I think for me, when I talk to this little one, in our house, we speak 5 languages. That's one thing first. My wife, again, as I say, is Russian, so her mother language is Russian. I speak to her in Spanish. English is at school. I teach her Mayan, and I teach her the value of our heritage. This book that we wrote, The Great Dream, was one of the things that we wrote with her, and she knows the story very well. And then by her choice, she decided to learn French. So now she's learning French. And so I think giving them these values and how important it is, because each language is one culture. So if you have 5 languages, you have 5 cultures. And when you have a challenge, you can solve it in 5 different cultures. And so it's a little bit, I think, powerful, and that's how I tell them. And I always remind, we go to Guatemala with her as often as possible, and we are going to go, for example, to these little towns that we're helping with schools. And so that's what I do with her, and her name, Yanushka, it's out of from her mom's side, Lucia from my mom's side, Miroslav, the boy, from mom's side, Moan, it's a Mayan word that we wanted to give him. So we try to embed it within that, but also we live it, and I live it very well. And so that's how I do it. I think she's picking it up really well. Yana is very grateful, and that's how I think it's, and it's to the kids in Guatemala, because being a Mayan in Guatemala, sometimes it's challenging. You don't get to wear your Mayan pants in a place where you go to work, because they're going to kind of kick you out. And so I'm trying to change that because it's cool. I think it's great. This is what you have. And if God decided that you were going to be born Mayan, who are you to say you're not Mayan? And so, I mean, it's very simple. But to tell them this is a bit difficult. So it's better to show it. And that's what I usually try to do. So I think it's, the actions speak louder than words. And that's what I kind of try to do. And I'm trying to do it from family. We're all not perfect, but we try to. And I think Anushka is you're doing okay, right? Harisha? Thank you for that question.
Thank you. These are difficult days for many of us, and I think the people in this room many of us are feeling pretty horrified at the change in the atmosphere. How do you maintain your hopeful, loving position that is so beautiful that you express to us? How do you maintain it? How do you keep that up? It's hard not to be consumed by anger these days, I think, for a lot of us.
Yes. I think it's definitely challenging. It's concerning. I think it does wake up some feelings that are not very good. But on my personal level and my family's level, I've been in a war where the bullets were running through next to my ear. I really went through this, and yes, I was shooting a gun with many bullets. I don't think I hit anybody. If I did, I don't know. And so from where I come from in my life, this is that dream. And so when something comes out, again, I went through this in 1994 in California. It touched me and it directed me. But I think the character of the people, the society, community, the country is built by these challenges. What do we get out of it? How do we turn it around? Because it's already there. Our leader today, I didn't vote for the leader, but he's there. We can't do anything about it. Now, what are we gonna do to speak up or to help others and to expose, that the people are less fortunate? And I think that's what we can get out of it, because challenges are there in our lives, in communities, in society. And I think we're going through a very transformative challenge right now in the country. It's definitely very difficult. For us on the immigrant level, we've always been afraid, especially the undocumented ones. We've always been afraid. Right now we are panicking, but it's like, but we can live. We can go buy food. It's challenging, very challenging. But I think out of these challenges, it's something great comes out. A growth comes out. At personal level, it's a character growth. I think our society is going to have to become stronger because when everything goes our way and it's all cool, and you don't get challenged, and I think right now it's one of those times, and it's a defining moment that we'll have to do something so that they can grow up in a better society. But that's what it is. And so for me, like when I talk and keep it calm, I have very, very hard feelings. I mean, like this is from me where it comes from. But then when I think about it, okay, so what can I learn from this? It's very difficult to say that and to think, but I think most of us here have gone through those different challenges. And this one, it's just another one that it's very difficult. We've been through it 100 years ago. What was happening 100 years ago, and then 200 years ago, and where we've been right now. Yeah, it's a little bit concerning that what we built 200 years ago now it could go down, but also it could become stronger. And so it's a very challenging moment. In my end, I always think that everything has one side that is negative and one positive. It's very difficult, very difficult. When my mom passed, I actually thought it was positive because she passed because of cancer and she suffered so much to the point we were asking God to please take her. And when she passed, we were happy. It's even that. And so what is the positive part of this moment right now? It's very difficult to see, but I think there is something that we can grow here as a society, as a community, as individuals, and immigrants. I mean, like I say, we're all immigrants. I mean, our story come from different, even as natives. We have Asian in our DNA, so we can deny that. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. Thank you for that question.
Do you have any plans to possibly write another book?
So I just finished this. Thank you so much. I just finished this book right now, the children's book. And this book, I actually have a hard copy. I think some of you might have seen it. And this is Januszka's favorite book, actually. So this book, it's called Marcos Antil and the Great Dream, El Gran Sueño. And I decided to do it in Spanish and English because we wanted to give it to her classroom, even though now it's French. So I guess I do it in French. She challenged me every time. And so this book, it's a summary of the immigrant book into very, very children's language, very short, but it values family and friendship. That's the end. We don't talk about forced migration. We do talk about multiple languages and so on, but it talks about love and about caring. And so that's one. There will be more. Yes, there will be more. I think the first book, when it came out, I was saying it was the last one, and my friend that told me, like, no, we're gonna introduce this as the first book of Marcos Antil. I'm like, Emilio, what's his name? Like, Emilio, why first book? No, it's because you're gonna write more. Like, no way. I'm like, yes, you're gonna write more. So let's do it as the first book. And so I think I have other topics of what the other book might come up in about maybe 2-3 years. But Cindy and I were talking about something else last night. There is now a plan of the movie, big screen coming up, which it's already been planned on Immigrant. The movie, we are pretty well advanced on it, so I think in about 2 years we might see it in a big screen as Immigrant by Marcos Antil. Obviously, some drama part is going to change because they want drama in the movies. But the idea is to remain true to the essence of the book, which is to inspire. And so I think books for sure, and hopefully a movie coming out within the next 2-3 years. Hopefully. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
story and for sharing. And you made me really love your family, as you do. And I'm just wondering if you could catch us up on what they are doing now.
My family?
Yes.
Okay. So, thank you. My older brother, my oldest brother, he just retired at 53 from a school district as a network administrator. He ended up going into technology as well. He has a son, Andre. He is, I think, about 21 years old. He's now at university. Leo, which is my second oldest brother, he graduated from computer science as well. It's because once my father saw that computer science was great, he tells everybody that they should go there. And so the amazing thing about Leo is that he graduated from the university the same year that his oldest son graduated also from the university with computer science as well. And so that's what they're doing. He now is back in Guatemala with his wife there, and so he lives there. And then my sisters, some of my sisters are nurses. Some of them are help at the elders, helping them. Some of them, I have a sister who is a speech therapist as well. And my youngest brother, he graduated in computer science as well. So that's kind of what the family are doing. But I think most of them are very much helping. And my sister, my oldest sister, which is the younger than me, when my mom passed, she kind of took into this mother figure, taking care of, talking to all of us. She's the one that brings us together. We'll have family meetings through Zoom mostly because they live in LA. Leo lives in Guatemala, I live in Miami. And so she'll organize those. She is number 14 in the grandchildren. My other kid is number 15. Now number 16 is about to be born next month, which is my youngest brother. He's gonna have a daughter. Her name is gonna be Itzel, which is a Mayan princess. And so that's where our family is. We've been very blessed. I did lose my dad 3 years ago, cancer as well, and it's very difficult. And now I see the pictures with all of them, but I have a lot of videos of him, and so I show it to them. But that's what our family is. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking.
I was just wondering if you could tell us about what you're working on now, like with Cafe Con Casa, with Soy Migrante, the things that you're busy with now.
Thank you. So when after I sold the company, I really enjoyed this company very much for 18 years. And when I got married, I had already thought about it, that I think it was time for me to get out. And then when I got married, then totally, I was so sure that I needed to get out. And then we got pregnant, and then she was born, and I'm like, I've worked all my time for this moment, for this, having a family, having a wife, having the kids. And so I decided that I was gonna very much focus on them. So when I sold the company in 2020, I stayed with it for 2 more years. And then on 2023, I took a sabbatical, very much off. I decided to go back to Guatemala and travel through the whole country. So I went through the whole country for 1 whole year. I went up in the air, through the lakes, through the river, to the ocean. I went through all of it. And why did I wanted to do that is because I wanted to see what the status, because when I left, and I started going back, I went to the city. That's where my office was. But outside, I couldn't go anymore. So I wanted to see what the feel of the country was. And I went and confirmed, obviously, that there's amazing people, creative. In Guatemala, 80% of the economy is outside of the city. And so it's the rural area, it's textiles, it's handmade stuff, it's coffee, chocolate, cardamom, all these things. And so I went and saw that one, and that filled me in. And I didn't hike all the volcanoes, but we have 37 volcanoes in Guatemala. And I wanted to embrace myself into that. And also I wanted to go back, get closer even more to the Mayan culture, to see the elements in the religious way. The Mayans, I know when you read about Mayans, we read about the god of corn, god of sun. They are not gods, they are elements. You know, when you talk about gods, and it conflicts with our value or religion. They are not this. It's an element of the air, element of the corn. What's important? So I went back to this and tried to learn it. So for that whole year, I think became a bit wiser, if I may, because I was able to embrace and go into these different cultures and learn. There's 22 languages, Mayan language in Guatemala. We speak 25 languages. I speak only one Mayan. And so I did that for that year. And then I stopped doing that, and I started saying, okay, so I sold this company for 20 years now. You know, what do I do? You know, and my wife was like, just rest. Like, no, mi amor, I cannot rest. It's like, I need to do something. And so I started right now in Guatemala an e-commerce platform, like a marketplace, like Amazon or Etsy, mostly Etsy, that focuses on entrepreneurs. And so that project, that's one branch. And then I started this other project, there's a magazine, Exposure. Because in Guatemala, sadly, right now for us there, the talent has exiled to here. Great for us here. And so the pillar of our economy in Guatemala right now is remittances. It's the highest, $21.1 billion came into the country last year. In whole Central America, it was about $45 billion. It's a lot of money that is becoming of people exiling and coming here. And so the idea is to create this e-commerce platform so that you can stimulate the economy, and then to tell the story of people that, you know, we can do this here and we can do it there as well, that we can be one. And so I started focusing on this one. So it's an entrepreneur social, but it does generate money. And so I'm still an entrepreneur at the end. And Café con Causa is this other project that I started doing when my company went through a challenge in 2017. We went through a challenge, and my chief financial officer, what he told me first is like, let's get rid of this thing for helping school. They don't give us money. So it's like, you know, that's what a lot of companies think. And so I'm like, no, that's the most important thing. But since we don't have money, we have coffee. Everybody like, let's create a company out of coffee. So we created this brand called Café con Causa, coffee with a purpose. And we manage it as a private company. We work to generate profits very hard like any other company, except that all the profit we use to pay teachers at areas that the education system doesn't get. And so we start schools, and those two projects are like right now my projects, working on this visualizing immigrants, creating this e-commerce platform, which I think is going to be great because it's going to go through Guatemala, through Central America, where we can generate, a lot of good for the people. And then this digital magazine, which is telling the stories of our stories. And I think once we tell the story, we don't tell bad news. Bad news sells really well. You can make a lot of money on bad news. As we decided not to, because we wanted to focus on these successful stories, because I feel it can go a lot further. Plus, I cannot compete anyway with the other established media there. So I wanted to do something different. So that's what I do right now. That's what we do. and spend my time with these blessings that my wife and I have, which is Miroslav and Januszka. Thank you for asking.
We don't want you to sit down, though.
No, I'm fine.
Debbie has some words for you.
Okay, I think there's one more question. I can still take one question if it's okay. Yeah, yeah. I will be okay with it. Thank you, Debbie.
Marcos, I just wanted to say thank you for the inspiration,
Thank you.
the hope, the joy, the love that you are able to project. I really needed to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I would echo what Ann said, but I wondered how you wrote, because you're in computer science, and from reading the story, I mean, and you also said you didn't want it too sophisticated for your audience, especially with all the AI stuff coming out. I'm just curious, and probably your computers speak a whole bunch of different languages, which is just beyond me, but that's okay. But I was curious as to the actual mechanics of writing. You must have used a computer, right?
So thank you for that question. In 2016, that's when I started writing the book. What I did, I was already blessed with a company, so I hired a I hired a ghostwriter. That's what I call it. And I looked for I worked with about 3. The first one was a really good friend of mine, a great writer. The way he wanted to write the book was different from what I really wanted. And so I wanted something very logical, simple. He wanted to do like a novel, like something very cool because he's a very good writer. And I said no. And so I went with another person, and he didn't act. And then I found this journalist that was a friend of mine, and I told him what was the challenge. What I wanted to accomplish in the book was to put what I would call the skeleton in the book, but the context, it's something I didn't know. I didn't know what was happening in 1970. I didn't know what was happening in the 60s and the 50s because I wasn't born. There was a story, and I didn't know why somebody was getting hurt in this area and here. But this journalist knew everything because he had been doing this for 20, 30 years. And so I talked with him, Gustavo, I'm like, Gustavo, I'm having this challenge. And he's like, Marco, let me help you. And so I hire him. Ghostwriters make more when they write book because they are not supposed to have their name on the book. So I talked with Gustavo, I'm like, well, Gustavo, I'll pay you as a ghostwriter, but I need to help because I cannot do this context. I can tell my story, but not what was happening. I think it's important to tell the story of Guatemala. I want you to, when you read the book, that you can travel a little bit through Guatemala. You can hear the volcanoes, the coffee, the sugarcane, or something. You can feel it. And so he came in, and he did an amazing job. So at the end, I told him, like, Gustavo, I'm going to put your name on the book. And he's like, no, please don't. Because ghostwriter makes more, so I want more. Just pay me more. I don't want my name. And I told Gustavo, no, Gustavo, I will still pay you as a ghostwriter. But we did a great job. It was 3 years. And so I was also on the first one, there was no AI. Now, on this one, oh yes, because on 2019, the book came out. Since then, I've been wanting to write a smaller version she was 1 year then. And so this one, all the art that you'll see through here, they are AI generated. But this is human intelligence with artificial intelligence, the best combination. So you got the generated, and this clothing, this is adjusted. This is actually our clothing on the region where I am. So this was modified by an artist, one of my team members. Here, this, for example, this is the pants I have here. I mean, AI doesn't know about these pants, right? And so it generated it, and then we went, did this. So we combined. In the text, I wrote the text, but I then realized that I cannot write the same way I'm writing for a bigger audience than for a smaller audience. For example, one of the biggest things is like always be proud of your roots, where you come from. And Sarah, you will know this. If you tell 4 or 5 years old about their roots, they're going to take it literally. Like, where's my root? And so AI came in and helped me and explained to me that for a 4, 5, 6 years old, you cannot use this language because they take it literally. And so all the advices I was able to, but it was, I mean, it was human intelligence. A computer, an AI, is like a 4 or 5 years old who's extremely smart, and they will do things very well if you give them very good instructions, simple ones. If you give them too sophisticated, then you're gonna get very, very, very bad answer, very bad images. But this book was finally done, and so the book was done really in about 2-3 months, and I've been trying to get it for years. And so the audiobook in Spanish, I also tried it since 2019. I did three chapters, and I edited, because when you go to the studios, it's very expensive, and it's not the same. And I had no time, and so just about a month ago, I decided I was going to clone my voice, see how it works, because it's there. And so I found a tool, and I spent about 3 days to adjusting it to that it sounded like me, and it sounds like me. So now the audiobook came out last week or 2 weeks ago. That is so it technology can help. It's a tool. In Guatemala with the farmers, what I say, have a machete, and a machete, when it has one side only that's sharpened, you work like this. When it has two, you work like this. AI is with a lot of edges, and anywhere you do anything. But if you do it the right way, it really, really can help. And so this one, it's AI, and the Spanish audio it's AI, but it does speed things up, but it does not take away your creativity, because when you're the one instructing it, your ideas just make it easier. And so that's, but the first one, I think the movie might end up having a lot of AI stuff on it, especially with the script, because it's really difficult to write a script. Thank you. Yes.
Did you consider any other titles
Yes.
for your book?
Yes, Cindy. I consider a lot of different titles, and I didn't know what to do. So I talked with friends. That's, like, friends are a gift. I usually believe in my friends to be my family by choice, because, my family is what God gives me, but my friends are what I choose. And a lot of my friends are my family by choice, I say. And so I asked my friends, like, hey, this is different titles. What should I do? And then ask me, of course, like, what's your audience? Who is your audience? And so I say, this is the audience I want to reach first, and then there's this one. So focus group. So we did a focus group, because the first audience was the Guatemalan youth. And so we did a focus group in all different areas. So Guatemala, Mayan, non-Mayans, Garifunas, it's an Afro-descendant out of Guatemala also. And so we did this whole focus group, and that's how we came up with Migrante. There were other ones, but what we decided to choose Migrante, because, and short, because I was gonna do long, and Migrante became also easier to do as immigrant. And so it was in other languages a lot easier, and it's an important topic, always an important topic. And so that's how we decided that we would call it Migrante. But it was really a focus group, and the person that did it, she was a PhD, and she did amazing, and I think probably the title it became really good. So we did consider, but I cannot give myself credit for that, because it was a lot of people involved. Thank you.
Marcos.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And on behalf of the Penn Yan Action Coalition, from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you. And we thank you for your bravery, your honesty, your commitment, your excellent and exciting book, and your excellent talk today.
Thank you.
So we decided, we were talking about what to give as a thank you gift, and we decided that we wanted to have something that was local, and also that was common to cultures, to our cultures. So I made stoneware pottery with chattering, which is an age-old technique in pottery, using a piece of scrap metal. And we have a tree of life theme. Now, Annie Schliffer the ceramic artists at the Folk Art Guild made sure that they were fired in time for today. So thank you, Annie. The Tree of Life is, I think, common to most cultures, and I think in Guatemala, it's the ceiba tree.
Seba.
Ceiba. And here, for our tree, we chose a specific tree, an apple tree that was planted in around 1790 by a follower of Jemima Wilkinson that we talked about last night.
Yes, we did.
Condensing into one sentence the 38 pages of information on the internet on the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life symbolizes unity with nature, empathy, compassion for all living things, balance, wisdom, inner strength, and the circle of life. So, for you, Marcos, we have a mug with chattering, and the Tree of Life of the Seba tree. There.
Thank you.
Now, Januszka. Yeah, you have to come up, Januszka. Thank you so much, Januszka, for being here and for your spirit and your energy and your joie de vivre. That's French. For you, we have the apple tree with the Tree of Life apple tree and some maple candies inside.
Yay, more candies today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can have one if you want to. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hachish? Yeah?
So that pretty much concludes the presentation for today, but if some of you have brought books with you, would you be willing to
I
sign
would.
them,
Yes,
Marcos?
I would be very honored to.
So if you want to stay after and ask him to sign your book, he said he would be willing to do
I
that.
would be. Thank you so much.
The books, Dr. Hernandez's books are for sale at a 20% discount, $26 includes tax.
Okay.
Very cool.
All right, so that concludes our presentation for today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Gracias, mamá. Thank you. And it seems that we're gifted with some snow, so we were so happy today to see it. Snowflakes.